Adora, the first daughter of King Azubike, was a princess who was born into the royal life. Yet, despite her royal lineage, she was never treated with the love or respect befitting her status. She was not like the other maidens of the kingdom. While her younger sister, Meshoma, grew to be the epitome of beauty, Adora remained plain, her features deemed unremarkable and unattractive by those around her. To make matters worse, even her own mother, the queen, showed little affection for her, favoring Meshoma, whose beauty earned her the adoration of the court. The two princesses grew to adult and Adora gets more ugly each day while Meshoma grows shiny and beautiful. The king, queen and everyone in Ukab started hating her openly. She was constantly reminded of her perceived inadequacy. The village where she was born mocked her at every opportunity. They would laugh and whisper as she passed by, calling her names and ridiculing her for her lack of beauty. The other maidens, who once were her childhood companions, now turned their backs on her. They would leave the streams in fear whenever she came to bathe, too disgusted by her appearance to even acknowledge her. She gets more ugly as she grows, they will say. Even the men of Ukab, who looked to her family with respect, would mock her, pointing and laughing as she walked by because they know that even the king was not happy she was born a princess. In the palace, Adora's life was nothing short of torment. She was treated like a servant, expected to do the most menial tasks while her younger sister, Meshoma, basked in luxury. Adora would rise before dawn to prepare the palace for the day, cleaning the floors, washing the linens, and fetching water, all while her sister remained in the comfort of their chambers, attended to by the palace servants. The queen, too, took no pity on her. She would often send Adora to the kitchen to help prepare meals for the royal family, forcing her to do the work that others deemed beneath them. Meanwhile, Meshoma would be praised for her beauty and grace, given the finest food and treated as the rightful heir to the throne, despite being the younger daughter. The torment did not end with physical labor. The children of Ukab would follow Adora wherever she went, singing cruel songs about her appearance. Ugly Adora, the queen of sorrow, they would chant, laughing as they paraded behind her. No matter where she went, the taunts followed. Even when she ventured into the marketplace, she would be met with jeers and mockery. The adults would often turn their heads when she passed, pretending not to notice her. And when she spoke, her words fell on deaf ears, as if her very presence was an inconvenience to those around her. Yet the queen wouldn't stop sending her to the market to buy foodstuffs. Sending her was on purpose. She knew she would be mocked once seen in the market. Adora's heart was broken, yet she never voiced her pain. Instead, she withdrew into herself, silently carrying the weight of her shame and loneliness. She often cried in the dead of night, asking the gods why she had been created so ugly. She would pray, hoping that one day, she would find a way to escape the torment and be free of the life she had been cursed with. Soon, they were both up to age for marriage, but no one took notice of Adora. Everyone needed Meshoma, but they can't marry her because of the law. Her father, King Azubike, had grown old and weak, and his only wish was to see his grandchildren before he died. His desperation led him to seek out suitors for Adora and even attached gifts, but no one, even the farmers, wanted Adora. With each passing day, he became more impatient with Adora's lack of a marriage proposal. The king, the queen, and even Meshoma began to resent Adora more and more, for no one wanted to marry her. The pressure mounted, and the first daughter of Ukab became a symbol of failure and disgrace in the eyes of her family. Meshoma got so upset, She knew that the law of the land dictated that the first daughter must marry before the younger one could, except the eldest is late. So she hatched a plan to eliminate Adora once and for all. In the dark of night, she made her move. Time and again, she tried to take Adora's life, but each attempt failed. She was desperate, and her hatred for Adora grew. One night, however, Adora caught her in the act. Meshoma, shaking with fear and guilt, looked into her sister's eyes, knowing that her cruelty had gone too far. With tears in her eyes, Adora spoke gently to Meshoma, asking why she wants to take her life. Meshoma cries that she's hindering her marriage and she won't be patient any longer. Adora begs her to let her leave the palace instead of her taking her life. She tells her that it was not out of spite but out of love that she would leave the palace. She promised to never return, to spare Meshoma from the burden of her existence. Meshoma watched her as she picked few of her things and left the palace that night. Meshoma, relieved, ran to their parents with the news that Adora was dead. She told them that vultures had eaten Adora's corpse, and the king and queen rejoiced. The villagers, too, mocked Adora's death, celebrating her departure, saying the vultures did well but feeding on her corpse because they wouldn't want her to reincarnate in any way. They praised the gods for taking away the curse of the royal family and for finally allowing Meshoma to marry. But Adora, though thought dead, was not gone. She wandered into the forest, starving and alone, her heart filled with sorrow and rejection. In the quiet of the woods, she stumbled upon a hidden spring, the secret water of Idemili. Desperate and thirsty, Adora knelt by the water's edge and drank from its cool, clear depths. As her hand dipped into the water, something miraculous happened. Her hands, once rough and unkempt, became soft and delicate. Her feet, too, transformed as she stepped into the water. The most extraordinary change occurred when she gazed at her reflection in the water. She could hardly believe her eyes. The plain, unattractive woman who had always looked back at her was gone. In her place stood a woman of exceptional beauty, more beautiful than Meshoma. Her features were flawless, her skin glowing, her eyes sparkling with a light that had never been there before. She was stunned, confused, and overwhelmed by the transformation. It was then that a mermaid appeared, singing a soft, melodic tune. She told Adora that she had been chosen by the gods for a great destiny. Adora had been born to be the bride of the warrior prince of Idemili, a kingdom known for its wealth, power, and fearsome warriors. It was said that only the goddess of Idemili could choose a queen for the prince, and Adora had been selected for her beauty, which was hidden until the moment she was ready to fulfill her purpose. The mermaid explained that Adora had been made ugly for a reason. If she had been born beautiful, the prince would have faced many trials to win her heart, and Adora's path would have been clouded with pride. But now that her transformation was complete, she was ready to meet her destiny. Adora, still overwhelmed by the news, was told to wait for the oracle of Idemili, who would guide her to the palace. As the night passed, the mermaids kept watch over Adora, protecting her. By morning, the oracle arrived and took Adora to Idemili, where she was treated like royalty. Her transformation was complete, and the people of Idemili marveled at her beauty. They welcomed her with open arms, but it was clear that Adora's journey was far from over. When the warrior prince of Idemili learned of Adora's arrival, he sought her out, explaining the prophecy and the great destiny that awaited her. He insisted on paying her dowry. Then she asked her where she is from. At that moment, Adora revealed who she is. She's Adora, the first daughter of King Azubike, princess of Ukab, who was once ugly and rejected. The warrior prince admitted that yes, he's aware the princess Adora is death. But Adora told him she is not death, but she left because her sister threatened to kill her. Again, if the lie about her death isn't told, Meshama will never marry. Despite the lies told by Meshama and the royal family of Ukab, the prince promised to visit Ukab to pay Adora's dowry. He wanted to move the next day, but the goddess of the sea made them wait, saying she will tell them the perfect date to visit Ukab. The day of Meshama's wedding arrived, and the palace was filled with celebration. This was the same day the goddess had chosen for the people of Idemili to visit Ukab. In the palace of Ukab, as Meshama prepared to give her wedding wine to her groom, the grand gate opened, and the prince of Idemili walked in. The crowd gasped in amazement. The warrior prince don't just go places. How come he attend Meshama's wedding? The villagers murmured, "What a beauty! She's the most beautiful of them all." Even the queen of Ukab was amazed. No one knew that was Adora. They marveled at her grace and beauty. The maidens of Idemili laid their wrappers on the floor as Adora walked upon, with the prince holding her hands as they walked towards the king of Ukab and the queen. The crowd murmured in awe. "She's more beautiful than our princess," they whispered. The king and queen of Ukab stood up in amaze and disbelief, for they thought the prince had come with her queen to witness Meshama's marriage. "Long live the king," the warrior prince said. Immediately the king responded, "I am so glad to have you in my palace. I see you've come to witness my only daughter's wedding. How did I get so lucky? Please have a seat." The prince looks at Adora and she signaled for him to accept the seat. They were offered seats like royalties, and the queen won't stop smiling at Adora, not knowing that is her daughter she rejected. The king advised the people of Ukab to settle down, let the ceremony continue. Meshama was so happy. Oh, what a day of her life! The warrior prince and her queen attended her wedding. This would never happen if Adora didn't leave. Thanks to God, she said to herself. Before the ceremony could proceed, the oracle of Ukab appeared, halting the proceedings. With a powerful voice, the oracle revealed Adora's true identity. The people were stunned, but they said she's death. They murmured, and how did she become so beautiful? The oracle explained the fulfillment of the prophecy and stated that the gods stay silent after Meshama's lie just for the prophecy to be fulfilled. Meshama, realizing her mistake, was forced to confess, else she will be punished by the gods. Meshama knelt as she cried, telling the truth about how she wanted to take Adora's life and she caught her. Then she decided to live on her own. Adora, standing tall and proud, explained that she had left not out of hatred but out of love for her sister, who had been so desperate to marry. She forgave Meshama for her cruel actions, understanding that they had been born out of jealousy and fear. The warrior prince, too, stood and explained the prophecy in full. The people of Idemili and Ukab listened in awe as they learned of the great destiny that had been planned for Adora all along. The king and queen of Ukab, deeply regretful for their treatment of Adora, apologized. They asked for her forgiveness, and Adora graciously accepted. Even Meshama, though filled with guilt, apologized for her actions. Adora, however, did not hold any bitterness in her heart. She understood that her journey had been long and painful, but it had brought her to a place where she could finally realize her true potential. She thanked everyone for their apologies, but she also expressed that the truth and forgiveness were more important than the apologies themselves. She had endured so much pain, But the strength she had gained from those trials made her the woman she was today. The warrior prince, moved by her words, took Adora's hand and looked into her eyes. He promised to stand by her side through whatever came next. He had come not just for her beauty, but for the woman she had become, strong, wise, and compassionate. He knew that together, they would rule Idemili with fairness, love, and the guidance of the gods. The gods of Idemili are wise, he said, for making everything the way they did for my favor. When the oracle of Ukab declared the day to be Adora's, the villagers of Ukab, once skeptical and mocking, were forced to acknowledge the truth. They had been wrong about her all along. The same people who had laughed at her, rejected her, and made her life miserable now had to kneel and pay respect to her, the true princess who had been chosen by the gods. Meshuma's wedding was cancelled for Adora to be married first before she, just as the law demands. Adora's wedding day was unlike any other. It was a celebration not just of love, but of redemption and transformation. The entire kingdom of Idemili came to witness the union of the warrior prince and their new queen. The ceremonies were grand, with sevenfold offerings of cows, horses, sheep, and more. The atmosphere was filled with joy, and the palace was adorned with the most magnificent decorations. The people of Idemili celebrated in a way that had never been seen before. As Adora walked down the aisle, she was no longer the plain, unloved princess who had once been mocked. She was a queen in every sense of the word. Her beauty was not just skin deep, it radiated from within, from the strength and resilience she had gained through years of hardship. The warriors of Idemili stood in reverence, honoring their new queen. In a quiet moment, as the ceremony unfolded, Adora turned to Meshuma, who had been standing at the back of the crowd, her eyes filled with regret. Adora smiled at her, her heart full of forgiveness. Meshuma, she said softly, you are still beautiful, and you have the power to choose your own path. Don't let jealousy blind you to the love that awaits you. Adora embraced her sister, the two women finally at peace. The crowd watched in silence, moved by the powerful moment of reconciliation. The celebration continued late into the night, and when it was time for Adora and the warrior prince to leave for their new life in Idemili, the people of Ukab watched with awe as the royal couple departed. The journey that had begun with so much pain had led to this moment of triumph and joy. As they left the village, the children who once taunted Adora now watched in admiration, their mockery replaced with respect. The men who had once laughed at her now bowed their heads in deference. The women, who had once turned their backs on her, now saw her not as the ugly, unwanted daughter of King Azubike, but as the true queen of Idemili. And so, Adora's story became one of legend, a tale of transformation, resilience, and the power of inner beauty. She had been cast aside, mocked, and rejected, but she had risen to claim her rightful place as the queen of Idemili, destined to rule with grace, wisdom, and the love of her people. Her journey taught them all that beauty lies not in the eye of the beholder, but in the heart of the one who dares to overcome the trials of life and embrace their true destiny.